And I find it kind of funny, I find it kind of sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. Strange world. Give me a break, it's all I could come up with on short notice.
There was the song from Toy Story.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and others, to StillerBros at the movies, where today we are seeing what many are calling a box office disappointment for Disney, Strange World.
And really, if you want to blame anybody for this box office disappointment, let's blame the guy that they just fired.
Woo! But yeah, apparently Chapek was cutting costs, and one of the things he did was cut promotional material. So there were probably a lot of people who were really hyped for this movie that didn't actually know that it came out over the Thanksgiving weekend.
Yes, it did. It's very weird that we didn't really see the big marketing push that Encanto got. That, say, a movie like Encanto or Frozen 2 would have gotten over the last couple of years.
Then again, Encanto got slept on in theaters and then eventually got a big Disney Plus push. The problem with that being that we don't know when Strange World is getting dropped on Disney Plus after its theatrical run. So, for all we know, the possibility of that getting a sudden bump in the final post-theatrical run could be not until late January or something like that.
One thing that kind of makes it so that this movie will probably become a cult classic is because it will clearly, just from what we've seen of it, it fits into the other cult following Disney movies that came out about 20 years ago with Treasure Planet and Atlantis.
Basically the movies that Disney made so that they could show, hey, we don't just make princess musicals, occasionally we can make something fun, action-adventure-y or something like that.
And this one definitely seems weird.
Not just because they call it Strange World. It's got this very interesting pulp movie aesthetic, all the way down to the fact that its first trailers were built around the same kinds of trailers that they would use for pulp movies back in the old 1960s serials.
Yes, and along with all of this, we have a very interesting and star-studded crew, which again was not really brought up much in the advertisements for it.
Like, do you think there's a bunch of people who would have slept on this if they remembered that Jake Gyllenhaal was playing the lead character?
Like, you have so many big names attached to this. Jake Gyllenhaal, Dennis Quaid, Lucy Liu, Gabrielle Union,
Jabuki White Young. I hope to God I'm pronouncing that right and getting the hyphenated last names in the correct order. This is a pretty stacked cast, including Alan Tudyk in one of the few roles that he's actually gotten to talk for in a Disney movie in a while.
Yeah, we are getting and again, this movie just looks interesting. It's from Quay Gwynn and Don Hall, who both worked on Raya and the Last Dragon last year.
Which was a very good movie that unfortunately was another thing that kind of got bumped by the pandemic.
However, 2 weeks to the hour after we got our final vaccination for the first round, we were in a movie theater seeing that again.
Speaking of which, I just got my 4th booster shot, so please, if you are able to, who get vaccinated, people.
Yeah, we both have just got our boosters, and if you are eligible for your next booster, go do it, please, for the love of God, so that
maybe we can get out of this mess sometime in the next decade.
Yeah,
I would really like it.
Yes.
Anyway, but yeah, this looks fantastic. It's looked interesting, at least since the first concept art that they launched when they said, "Hey, we're doing this weird action adventure thing from the director of Raya and the Last Dragon."
And obviously we're very interested in this, and this is coming from two kids who loved the shit out of Treasure Planet when it came out in theaters.
After Treasure Planet came out, we were 20 years ago when when Treasure Planet came out. That was basically our big hyper fixation for the next year or so.
Like, we were hyper fixated on this movie on this franchise that only has one movie to it.
I mean, for God's sakes, I wrote so many for school assignments. I was drawing and writing so many stories about Treasure Planet related stuff. Once again, only one movie, But we were reading tie-in books and watching the movie over and over again and coming up with stories for it. Treasure Planet was our jam growing up.
And so it's nice to see Disney kind of dive into this weird kind of concept that only could exist in animation, because there in an animated movie there is a level of a suspension of disbelief.
And of course, we should probably talk about the thing that is getting people upset at this movie, because of course there's a thing getting people upset about this movie. The fact that Jabuki White Young's character is a queer character, and is so explicitly so that apparently they can't cut it out of the movie because it's such an integral part of the character's arc.
Along with the fact that the character himself is from a mixed race character, with a white father played by Jake Gyllenhaal and a black mother played by Gabrielle Union.
I keep almost mispronouncing her name.
I don't know, it's weird.
Anyway, but yeah, there's a lot of people who have been having fits, and it's about it. And I think you know that it's usually the usual suspects having fits about it, to the point that they are celebrating hating the money drop and think that Bob Iger is somehow going to pull them out of this, without realizing they were bitching about Iger just as much as they were bitching about the stuff Chapek was doing.
Probably not even as much, because Chapek obviously obviously shit the bed with the whole with his response to the Don't Say Gay bill, and the fact that he basically said animation was and the fact that he basically badmouthed animation while he was CEO of a fucking animation studio.
In case you can't tell, we are very happy that Chapek is gone, and Iger will hopefully pick a better successor this time around.
Yeah.
But hopefully, this movie finds an audience sooner rather than later.
And we're about to go see this so that maybe we can be part of that audience.
So that maybe we can be the champions of this. Oh, and also we should probably mention the fact that Jake Gyllenhaal and Dennis Quaid are once again playing father and son, trying to find each other over a weird, environmentally strange wasteland.
Yes.
For the first time since the day after tomorrow.
Although in this case, they never were in the same room together when they both were in this movie.
And Jake Gyllenhaal is looking for Dennis Quaid, not the other way around.
Yeah.
But yeah, Strange World seems like it's going to be an interesting one. At the very least, it seems like it's going to be another out of the park one for Disney. I don't know if it's going to be reach the heights of Encanto or it's just going to be another like Raya and the Last Dragon, where it's like people like this. This is fun. Let's just keep making movies like this.
But it's going to be interesting to see, because Disney has been making some very interesting animated movies. Again, Raya and the Last Dragon was a very interesting, created this entire world that was insane. That is insane if you think about it. And now we're doing the same thing here.
Especially since Disney has not all that Disney has made from this second renaissance of animated movies has not been exclusively musicals. Like, they've had the likes of Frozen 2 and Moana, Frozen 2, Moana, and Encanto, Tangled, if you count that as the actual start of this new renaissance. But they've also had the likes of the two Wreck-It Ralph movies, Raya and the Last Dragon, and Strange World here. Zootopia, which can we get a proper sequel of that at some point?
And also all the amazing new stuff coming that we're getting too. Pixar's got some amazing looking stuff coming. And next year we're getting what appears to be a new 2D animated movie from Disney, a new hand-drawn animated movie,
which may or may not actually be that. If not, it might be them finally deciding to do something with that Paperman technology that they've just been letting kind of percolate until eventually they were like, we've got enough for a feature that looks like this.
And that is coming next year with Wish, which just from the concept art alone we've seen looks very good.
Also, we should probably mention why we specifically missed this on opening week. Well, you see, I think we've mentioned in a video before, but this is not a good time of year for us.
Yeah, so we always miss the initial Thanksgiving. So when a movie comes out on Thanksgiving, we always miss the initial weekend. We always typically miss the initial weekend.
And then, of course, there's the fact that last year, at the end of the year, we promised a Kingsman video that we never delivered on because we never went to see the movie, because we never had a time where we were like, okay, we've got free time, we're not completely exhausted, let's go see this middle-of-the-road Kingsman prequel. I mean, our original plan for last year was that we were going to end it on The Matrix Resurrections, but we never got time to actually watch all the Matrix movies for the first time before going to see it. So we never ended up seeing Matrix Resurrections.
But this is different. But this is Disney. We love animation. We love Disney. So we always end, like with Encanto before it and Moana before that. Anytime there's a new Disney animated movie, pretty much ever since Frozen, since the first Frozen, we try to make time for a Disney animated movie.
Particularly since the first Frozen was such a shock for us that we never thought was possible. If I remember, I don't remember if I mentioned this, but for the first Frozen, that was the wait and see movie after we saw Inside Llewyn Davis. We ended up seeing that first, and it's like, and in the long run, I like both, but I like Frozen more than the first Frozen more than Llewyn Davis.
Yeah. So now tonight we are seeing Strange World, and we're hoping to get at least something out of it. It looks, again, we have not seen much of this because advertisement has been virtually non-existent.
So we don't know what we're getting into entirely, especially since it has been a week, but we have kept away from spoilers.
So with that in mind, I guess we got nothing else to say other than we'll see you guys after the jump. All right, we're out. So
we're out, and that was a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one. Not great, not the peak of Disney animation, but definitely a good one. I would put it on par with maybe Atlantis or Treasure Planet.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
maybe not Treasure Planet. I still fucking love Treasure Planet. I watched it again recently, and it was still freaking great.
But I don't think it's gonna take over the world like Encanto. It clearly isn't. But I think that if you take that, most of the kids that will go see this are gonna have a good time with it, and if it's destined to be a cult classic, like I said in the intro, I hope it happens sooner rather than later.
Yeah. So let's get into it a little bit. This is one of the most insanely creative movies that is out there right now, just on the sheer fact of the terrain, the locations and the backgrounds and the creatures.
The second I saw the creature designs for extended periods of time throughout this movie, I kind of figured out where the story was going, and I still loved it as the way it came about. And I won't go into what I noticed about the designs.
But once you know, there's a twist in this movie that once you get to that twist, if you know certain things about certain things, you will understand why how the designs came to be the way they are.
But these are great. But the creature and environment designs are fantastic in the way that the creatures feel like they are a whole part of this world, and not just they drew a classical forest and then slapped some whatever the weirdest fantasy creatures the production designers could come up with that week over the top of them.
Yeah, and especially is assisted by just the design and the colors, which really the whole thing just comes off like it was a comic book from the 60s or 70s of like a Red Sonja or a Tintin or Valerian, of just those pulpy sci-fi kind of fantasy books, comic books.
In fact, it kind of speaks to the fact that in fact, the movie actually at one point says straight up, hey, these colors don't look anything like the way they are back on the surface world, because on the surface world of this story, it's a lot of greens, it's a lot of earthy tones. It's very clearly set in a more realistic, grounded world. And then once you get to the titular strange world, it's pinks, it's yellows, it's oranges, it's bright and vibrant colors that just kind of contrast against the characters who are designed like typical Disney characters, with these earthy tones to their clothing and skin tones and everything like that.
Yeah.
And speaking of the characters, let's get into the very fact that the characters are very well fleshed out. The story is another father and son story from Disney, and it's
a multi-generational story, just like similar to Encanto, but it is a very different multi-generational story. It's a story about legacy and what that means to the next generation after you try to establish that legacy.
And it's very much a thing where we've got Jake Gyllenhaal's character Searcher and his son Ethan, and also his father Clade and the Jaeger and his father Jaeger, and we get these three butting heads while also dealing with the fact that they all have very similar motivations for why they want to move on to the next thing in the story. And I love Jaeger as a character. I think Dennis Quaid does a fantastic job with it, playing crazy old man in a way that makes you think, did you look at your brother for research?
Yeah. Jake Gyllenhaal is good in this, although there were times when he was being really, really cartoony and neurotic that I kind of was like, so you're just gearing up for Yuri Lowenthal to take this role in the inevitable TV show, aren't you?
Well, that's one of the things with Jake Gyllenhaal. I like him in this movie. I like him as an actor when I've seen him in stuff. I think his voice is a little generic.
Yeah.
But I think that's mainly because he needs to be an everyman character. So I think that's what fits him for this role.
Yeah.
Oh, and Jabuki Young White as Ethan very much plays between the two extremes of Ethan as as Searcher, this normal guy, and Jaeger as this crazy adventurer.
And also, of course, the first openly queer main character in a Disney movie that can't be cut out for the international markets.
Yeah, yay! But
love wins, bitches.
Even though he's like the 50th gay character in a Disney movie in the last 6 years.
But he's the first main character, and again, they can't cut him out. Cut any of the gay stuff out. So, no. But to quote Thomas Standards, maybe a little more gay. Maybe needs a little more gay.
They really don't need that much more.
No, probably not. But still, it is nice to have this representation.
Yeah, I'm sure for all the mixed race gay kids out there, I'm sure it's nice to see a character who looks and acts exactly like them, especially when he joins the ranks of Ian Lightfoot as, oh look, another dorky guy who loves card games.
Yes.
And of course, Gabrielle Union and Lucy Liu also round out the cast fantastically in their roles.
Yes.
Alan Tudyk referencing Firefly very perfectly with the way that his character lives. In fact, he actually breaks his little record in Moana of most Disney characters Alan Tudyk has voiced in a single movie by voicing 3 different characters.
Yes.
And of course, Henry Jackman, who is always doing fantastically when you give him these adventure movies, falls perfectly in line with a pulp serial score.
Yes, similar to stuff he did when he did Jumanji, where he's clearly channeling John Williams from Indiana Jones, or any of those other pulpy serial movies that were all from the 60s and 70s that inspired Indy and all those.
Speaking of which, is Indiana Jones 5 looking fantastic or what?
Yes. Hopefully this will not date this video in any way in about 6 months when that movie comes out, and we eat our words because it sucks.
But Henry Jackman is probably the king of bombast, or at least the heir to bombastic scores after John Williams. He's not fully retired. Basically, as long as Spielberg is working and they're rebooting the movies that he made made scores for, or he'll always be running around working. But John Williams doesn't do near as many movies today as he did in his heyday of the 70s. So if anyone should be handed the torch, it should probably be Henry Jackman, because between this and Captain America: The First Avenger and Jumanji, the bombastic energy his scores give us just reminds everyone of the epicacity of the Star Wars theme and the Indiana Jones theme and the Superman theme.
The man loves horns is basically what we're getting at.
He loves them horns.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is another good one for Disney. Hopefully it finds its audience, whoever that may be. I'm sure it'll be people who love adventure movies and who just love watching this kind of stuff.
I mean,
not as big a tearjerker as Encanto, because what is in this day and age, but still an emotional whole gut punch when it needs to.
The big thing that kind of drags it down is the fact that it kind of feels a little unfocused at times.
Yes, yeah. The fact that the visuals play such a huge part of it, which is why you need to see this on the biggest screen possible. But the visuals play such a huge role that the story is a bit smaller, but a bit more unfocused.
The characters are fun to be around, but eventually you do need a story. Eventually, a story does need to be involved to make this work, and the characters are what is driving the story for the most part. But we don't get a lot of. We don't really get a lot of character moments in the story so much, just because they're trimming out a lot of fat as well. A lot of the fat has been trimmed out, so. But a lot of times it feels like the story is meandering with some character moments.
I think the thing about that is that this is a bit more episodic, but mostly because it is playing from adventure comics and serials and all kinds of other stuff. So stuff like that used to have moments where they could just stop the plot for a minute to have the characters to say the theme of the movie over a card game or something like that.
But really the biggest gripe with it is that it is kind of feeling like it has a hard time balancing the character to story ratio. But again, this is still a very fun movie to see. It's got some great, very weird visuals and stuff. It makes me want to be more of a creative person, so that I could make something of this level, even though I know in my heart of hearts I could never think of something as weird as a lot of the stuff in this movie.
Yeah, it's a very creative movie. It's a very fun movie. I think this is going to be remembered as one of the better Disney action movies, because even when it gets to the action sequences, those are so wonderfully weird and crazy and creative in their own ways. But then again, what else do you expect when it's directed by the co-director of Big Hero 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, what else can be said? A new action serial from Disney that tells another father-son story, joining the ranks of the likes of of a Goofy movie and Chicken Little. But I think that this is a whole new angle that they're going for, and I really liked this. I can't wait to see it again, whether it be in theaters or on Disney Plus or what have you. But yeah, I think Strange World is really something people need to go see before it blows up, so that everyone who has seen it can essentially say, "I told you so."
Yeah, anyone who's seen, especially those who can see it and say you saw it in a theater and got the experience that you needed to see. Because for the people who saw us talking about Raya, you knew our biggest gripe was that we couldn't see it in a theater. Well, now we've seen this in a theater, and we got the experience, to experience what was intended.
And really, I think that we need to reverse the review bombing that this got on IMDb. Seriously, I checked it. It's at a 4.6.
Yeah.
That needs to be. So I think that people need to actually see this to fix it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying let's review bomb the review bombing, but maybe we should make sure that this now pretty much underrated gem is not thrown into the wastebasket.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that should do it for right now. If you liked this video, be sure to like it. Be sure to subscribe to this channel to see more videos like this. And don't forget to tune in next time when...
That's a tough one.
I don't know, lights, camera, action or something?
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Thanks.